Internet people, welcome back to my channel, Wandering Bobbin. My name is Katie and today I'm going to show you how to do a lettuce edge hem on your serger. Now I recently made this Pattern Scout Comfy Tee lounge set and I did lettuce hems on all of the edges and it came out really cute. I'll show you the sleeves here. Now I did not invent the lettuce edge hem myself. I learned from Gail Yellen. She's a sewing teacher and I took a Serger class from her earlier this year, but she also has a YouTube channel and I highly recommend you check it out because she has a ton of sewing wisdom to share with us. I'll go ahead and link her channel below. So she's the person that I learned this from, but I thought I would go ahead and just show you how I did it on my serger, and then hopefully that would be helpful for you to also make lettuce edge hems yourself. I made a little mock sleeve pant leg situation that I'll be sewing it on in the same fabric as my lounge set. And this is double brush polyester from So English Fabrics. Now the lettuce edge hem works best on very stretchy fabrics. It doesn't work as well on thicker or more stable knits like a ponte. You're welcome to try, but stretchy knits is really what gives the best look. I'm using a normal maxi lock cone in my serger. You can also use a woolly nylon and that will give you a really good result. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's get our machines set up. Okay, so I'm using a Brother 1034D and the first thing you want to do is remove the left needle. I've already clipped the thread for that cone and I'm going to take it off. So we have just the right needle in the machine now and we have removed the cone for the left needle as well. Next thing we're going to do is take out our stitch finger. You may need to consult your manual on how to remove your stitch finger. Now we're going to go ahead and change the settings. First setting we're going to change is the differential feed, which we're going to put on the lowest setting, which on my machine is 0.7. We're going to put the stitch width and the stitch length on R as well. So the lowest settings for that as well. And you can leave your blade engaged. We're also going to go ahead and leave our needle tensions just as they are. For this machine, it seems to like its looper tensions at 5 and the needle tensions at 4, and that's just a quirk of my machine, but just leave it on whatever you normally have it on. And that's it. Now we're ready to make our lettuce edge hem. So at this point you want to try on your pants or your top and check your hems. The lettuce edge is basically kind of like a raw edge, and so you're going to use your serger knife to cut it to the length that you want. So if your pattern calls for like a 5/8 of an inch hem, you may consider cutting off 5/8 with your serger knife, but you actually probably don't want to do that because the lettuce edge is ruffly and it does curl up a little bit, so you don't want to end up with too short of a hem. So it's better to be conservative and cut off as little as possible the first go around rather than cut off too much and have it be too short. So for this, I actually only cut off about 1/8 of an inch and the hem was actually perfect. I would recommend cutting off less and then shortening up later rather than cutting off the entire hem allowance at the beginning. Okay, now we're ready to get started. Okay, first thing is I'm going to take the bed extension off and that will make it easier to sew in the round. And I have my sample here. I'm going to place the fabric in the machine near this seam here. I like to start my hems near a seam, and so I'm going to go ahead and place it approximately 1/4 of an inch behind the seam here. Okay, and I'm going to cut off, I don't know, about 1/4 of an inch, maybe 1/8 of an inch, but I'm not going to be too careful about it because this is just a sample. It doesn't really matter. You'll have to decide how much you want to cut off. So I've put the fabric in the machine and I'm going to let it run through the machine without pulling it. I'm just going to gently guide it with my fingers until it's sewn the entire circle of the hem. You can see I haven't cut it very well here. Okay, now we're cutting off way more at the beginning, but just ignore that part. It doesn't really matter. Okay, now as we're coming up to where we started, what you're gonna do is you're gonna overlap by just a few stitches and then start coming off of the fabric. And you're gonna try not to cut off what you've already sewn. So I'm just peeking in there by the needle to see where I started and just overlapping it like maybe a quarter of an inch. And then I'm going to start pulling it up. Okay. So as you can see, it doesn't look like much now, but what you're going to do is you're going to use the pinch and pull method to create the lettuce edge. So what you want to do is just take maybe this much, maybe an inch, and just pull. And what that does is it starts making the wavy lettuce hem. And you just pull, not too hard because you don't want to distort the fabric and you don't want to pull anything out of shape. But if you can kind of just keep working it until you get a wavy hem. Now for the tail here, hopefully you're able to overlap it by just a little bit. You can cut off the tail and you can put a little bit of fray check on it. And there you go. And there you have it, your very own cute lettuce edge hem for your garments and all of your creative pursuits. You can keep playing with it by pinching and pulling it to get it to look just the way you want. Just make sure not to pull too hard or too much to distort the fabric. And as you can see, this one that I made here is much less ruffly than my sleeve, and that's because I made this garment on the direction of the grain line, and so that's the most stable direction of this knit, and this one is done on the crosswise grain. So as I was mentioning earlier, it works best for very stretchy fabrics, and you can see now this was done on the grain line on the stable direction of the knit, and it made a much less ruffly hem, whereas this one was done on the crosswise and you can see it's much more ruffly. So something to keep in mind when you're making your hems. I hope this was helpful. Let me know if you give it a try, and if you have any questions, make sure to let me know. Thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you soon and take care.